Hey friends, welcome to DadBod. Today it's around 68 degrees and it's 5:08 in the morning, and we're going to go for a 6-mile run. Now we're running along the Todoroki ravine, which will basically take us all the way through here. Then eventually this kicks out to a river you can't see because that just explains the Tokyo Valley. But we got 6 miles. I think we should be all right today. I've been running this trail for about a year now since moving out to Japan, and I'm a big guy, like 300, I almost said 600 pounds. I'm like 300 pounds. So running is not fun, but something that is part of my life, and happy to bring you into it. And let's see if we can get it done. Let me pop you on my head. Let me open up my running tracker. I'm probably gonna run 14-minute miles today, 15-minute miles. You could look out at the ravine while I set up my phone. What the heck? I don't wanna upgrade, just do the thing. There's the ravine. It's been closed because trees have fallen recently. So I used to go like down some steps right there and then run the whole ravine. We have to run kind of on some side streets near it. And then eventually it's gonna open up, I hope, this summer. All right, let me pull up YouTube so I can see chat. I also tweaked my phone. I have it connected to a Wi-Fi router, pocket Wi-Fi, as opposed to just the normal network. So we'll see if my chat feature is less buggy. All right, here we go. Hour and 30 minutes. Let's see. Yeah, over the last I've been long distance running my whole life. Always been a lineman, football, American football for non-Americans. Ball that you kick. But I'm already winded. What the heck? But basically, like, I've always been a big guy, and I did baseball. I was an outfielder, pitcher, first base, did American football, and I did wrestling. And my sophomore year of high school, actually my freshman year of high school, I dropped out of baseball. I didn't like the culture. They thought they were the best of the best of the best, sir. And I was like, nah, y'all really aren't that important. No, thank you. Just checking chat. Hey. Is this thing on? But, my sophomore year of high school, I was doing wrestling. And depending on my weight, I was really bad at cutting weight. So there are some people that were really, really good at getting wicked strong and cutting weight so that they could, you know, wrestle at like peak strength, right? You want to be right near the top of your weight class and jacked so you can throw people around, right? Like, that's the whole game. I like food. Had very little control over my weight in high school. So I drifted across weight classes in a suboptimal way, is the best way to put it. Like the beautiful. So I was right around 215 my freshman year, which was fine. Like, so I'd be around 210, 215. I think that's the weight class. I can't remember. But there's one year where, like, I floated up to 220. So I went just over the weight class limit of 215. And no matter what I did, because I didn't understand fitness and food and eating McDonald's snack wraps and hash browns together. So the next class up from 215, I believe, is 250. And that's a beefy jump, okay? Like, especially when you start having like kids that go to state at 215. Those are some big angry men. So I was like at the bottom of a heavier weight class. I wasn't really skilled at wrestling, wasn't disciplined, wasn't strong. It was just something I fell into, I guess. Wasn't passionate about it. And I wrestled against this one kid who was just right near the top of his weight class and jacked. Whereas when I put on my singlet, I was nice and fluffy. One second, I always have to think on this turn. There we go. So that was a nice big fluffy kid. But not big enough. Anyway, in wrestling, we're gonna get to how this gets to running. So just hang with me. My stories are typically long-winded with forgetful endings of like, why was I telling this? Also, my posture's a little odd today. I'm running back on my heels, so I'm trying to figure out why I'm favoring that. So at the bottom of the stairs, I think I'll hit a couple deadlifts to try to recalibrate. I'm sore, that's okay. We had a good full week of fitness last week with a bit of recovery, but let me get 3 deadlifts and we'll get back to this long and terrible reasons why I run. 1, squeeze the butt. 2, squeeze the butt. My upper back's a little sore too. 3, squeeze the butt. Tuck it, lean, trottle. That's a little better. Not perfect, but that's okay. But anyway, so in high school, I'm wrestling at the bottom end of a big boy weight class. And there's a technique you could do where you like shoot for the leg. So basically, you know, you're sprawling or you're like sparring with someone, putting your hands on their face and shoulders and trying to bait them. And then really fast, you kind of drop your level, lunge forward, and like where your knee barely touches the ground. And you're supposed to like lunge and slide right towards them, scoop their ankle, flip them on their back, right? Flip the turtle. That's my signature move. Though most of the time I was the turtle. Anyway, I went to shoot for this guy's leg. He was a big boy, strong guy. And there's a technique you can do in wrestling where if somebody shoots for your leg, you basically put your forearm on their shoulder or their back and your other hand on their shoulder or back, and then you aggressively kick your hips out from under you, like you kick your legs back. And the reason is so all your weight goes on their back and you can kind of like squish them. And if you squish them successfully, then they can't get your leg because they're underneath you. And you squish the turtle from above. Well, anyway, this guy sprawled with full commitment, whereas I shot for his leg with fear and bad form. My leg, like, I didn't have my legs under me, I just kind of lunged forward. Sure. And he slammed my face into the ground, and I blacked out. Had a massive concussion, blood all over the floor. It's terrible. How was? It's absolutely terrible. Blacked out. I remember waking up with our trainer, Glenn, the flashlight in my eyes, and he'd be like, "Do you know your name?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Joe." He's like, "Do you know where you are?" I was like, "No." "Do you know what day it is?" "No." And he just kind of paused for a minute. He's like, "Oh, that's not good." It's like, definitely not what you want to hear from your trainer. Long story short, I basically killed my whole season. Like, because anytime I would try sparring and people put their hands, if they touched it, like, because I'd start to anticipate it. So even now, 15 years later, after that concussion, if like my kids are behind me wailing on the back of my head with a pillow, every once in a while I'll start to anticipate the next contact, and I'll start to like get really skittish and freak out for a minute, and then I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm an adult and it's a pillow, we're fine." But it goes all the way back to getting slammed on my face. So that drove me to long distance running, because when the injury first happened, the assumption from everyone was like, "Hey, he'll be fine in a week and he'll get back to wrestling." Here's our beautiful river, friends. We're gonna run all the way to that city. I am a little sore, a little creaky today, so we'll see. Still trying to find my pace and my form. But so this assumption was like, he'll get back to wrestling, no problem. So they put me out in the hallway. I can perfectly see this hallway. So like, while everyone else would be doing normal wrestling practice, they put me out in the hallway to run laps. And like, I would still do some of the drills, like the conditioning stuff, and jump rope, you know, like push-ups, like the normal first half of practice. But the second half of practice was just sparring with people in your weight class to get better after learning techniques. And during that, the coach just kicked me out. It was like, "Go run." It was almost like punishment a little bit for me being hurt. And I hated running. It wasn't fun. I wasn't good at it. But every day that I did it, I got a little better. I could run a little longer. And I kept running this same loop back and forth from one end of the hallway to the other every day. Like a mouse on a wheel, you know? And as weeks went on, it became apparent I wasn't going to return to wrestling because of that injury. and wrestling was a winter sport. But for spring season, I was like, huh, let's try track. Who knows? Maybe someday I'll be a good long distance runner. So I went out, joined the long distance team of track and field. And I learned a little bit, sucked at it, came in last place every race. But there's something really powerful, at least for me, of being last but still finishing, and seeing how that impacted people. Like the majority of the track meets, it wasn't even a competition. I think there was 1 or 2 races where I did the mile, and there was someone I would say equally unfit with me compared to who traditionally runs long distance. But most times, you know, there'd be a judgment of, look at this big guy going to the lineup. But once I started to turn the 3rd lap and round into the 4th, how good I was. Once I would round into the 4th lap, like normally people would start cheering and standing up, especially near the finish line. And that, like, it was so unexpected first couple times it happened, because I was just out there for me, you know. Running was me trying to find some level of control, some place physically where I could perform and do well and grow, even though I never performed well. But seeing the way it affected other people, that was interesting. Because that was, I kind of became a mascot like for the team. I'm like, hey man, this is the only lineman who's out here running a long distance. And there's something curious to me about that, and it kept me going. Oh, how gozaimasu. Hey, it's Johnson, the engineer. Is this my friend Johnson that we connected over Discord chat about all your career aspirations and startup interests and things like that? Or is this a new Johnson, the engineer? Either way, welcome, friend. I am live streaming from Japan on a GoPro over RTMP to a pocket Wi-Fi to a cell tower to wherever you are in the world. So there will be some latency in our dialogue, but happy you're here. Yes! Dude, how's it going? I'm on the job hunt too. My role in Japan ends June 30th. So I'm trying to find other medtech opportunities. It's a crazy time to be alive. No, this is the old Johnson. Fantastic. The original, the OG. How's it going, bud? You find a job? How's school? How's your startup? Are you and your team ready to join the big brain club? That's funny. In the transition, I'm exploring loosely exploring doing content creation full-time, which has a whole host of risks. So we'll see. Are you planning to go back to the States? Our current plan, which is not official yet, it's very close to official, is we're gonna stay in Japan. But there's some unknowns for sure. Like, we might need to secure housing before we can both secure employment. Lots of craziness. So we shall see. But the hope is to keep running along this stupid trail, which has been breaking my bones for the last 2 years. It's always the challenge. I'm staying at my university this summer. Oh, nice! You're doing the whole research thing. That's fantastic. I wanted to do that. I tried to set up summer research once, and then at the last minute it fell through. It was actually the first summer that me and my wife got married. We got married in college. So I was gonna pay for our rent with a research role, and instead Felicia got a job cleaning out classrooms on campus. So she paid my way through that summer with a mop. It was funny though, because she's like 4'11", so she's super short, and they needed to clean all the chalkboards, but because of the policy, they weren't allowed to stand on chairs to clean the top. So like, and they were timed for how quickly they can clean. So like, every room she cleaned, the chalkboard was like 2/3 clean, and the top third was always chalky. And I'm sure there's some professor like, what the heck? Why does this person lack so much initiative? No, they're just small. They're doing research, working on a startup, still can't find a job. Hey man, a lot of people are struggling. I applied to 30 plus jobs at Johnson & Johnson. Got rejected everywhere. There's still a shot for one role that can keep me in J&J and keep me in Japan. But it's a huge financial hit. Like, in my current role, I make a certain amount of money, and then we get housing paid for. How gozaimasu. We get our housings covered, and our schooling for our kids gets covered, which is marvelous. And we get tax support and visa support. All these things cost the business money. In this new role, I would have more responsibility than I have today, and a fun part of the business. But I would be losing housing support, losing school support for my kids, losing visa support, tax support, and take about a 40% pay cut because they would localize my salary to Japan, even though a lot of my financial commitments are in US banking. So it's a big hit, which means like in parallel I gotta go all in on content creation, having people join our channel, make merch, affiliate links, like the whole shebang. My wife's trying to get a job teaching at our kids' school, which may reduce cost of tuition, but there's uncertainty in that as well. So there's just lots of challenges all around. It's great. It's great. Lovely opportunities. But based on lead times, on like when we would have to move, we may be making certain choices about housing before any job opportunities are written in stone. So it's a big faith jump for us. By the way, friends, we are deceptively close to 2 miles, which is about 3K. I'm gonna reboot YouTube just in case chat's getting wonky, which happens from time to time. Who knows? Whoops. Yep. I'm also working on a few projects. Machine learning, lovely. I did some machine learning back in my day. So much cool stuff you could do with it, especially when you integrate electrical and optics to try to predict certain outcomes of medical devices. It's fun. Analysis for heart attack prediction. Excellent. So you're looking at wearables. Or are you doing machine learning on other factors? You know, eye color, ACT scores, political leanings, car insurance premiums, looking at all those factors, zip codes to determine probability of heart attack. I'm just trolling. That's a little bit of like a Hail Hydra kind of moment if you're from the Marvel universe. Luckily we don't have, what is that, our helijets or whatever the heck those things are called. Little helicopter aircraft carrier things. Yeah, it's a struggle out here. But I'll continue to support you. Dude, thank you so much. I'm trying to, well, honestly, you're the target audience. Like, I'm trying to shift my long form content to be directly applicable to folks in your season of life. So on my page, I do my short form content, which is kind of like the top of my funnel. Like, that's the stuff that goes viral in different capacities. But then I have a podcast called One on One with a Pretentious Engineer. I think I have 3 episodes thus far, but I'm recording a lot more of them. And those are like 15 minutes to 30 minutes going through different aspects of engineering and leadership. So the best way to support is to watch it, share it, comment. Just gonna software project. That sounds exciting. Oh, you're making a wearable. You're trying to put your software into a wearable. Okay. Dude, that's so fun. Ohayou gozaimasu. Sumimasen. Being attacked by a dog. Oh, there's our bridge. So the base of the bridge, that'll be 2.5 miles. Cross it, that'll get us to 3. That'll be the turnaround for today. When I think like upskilling is so important. And there's so much competition, right? Work experience is also important, which we've talked about. You do want to avoid situations where You end up working for free though. Like, you should get paid for an internship. There's a lot of unpaid research assistants. Noise cast. I got sick of doing my problem set, so I'm here. Well, Johnson, how can I help you? What big questions do you have? Maybe I could write my next one-on-one with the Pretentious Engineer blog. And your big question, I'll take a screenshot of it. I'm take a stab at it now, because I don't want to waste your time. But my hope is that the podcast eventually becomes directly tailored towards questions from the community that I journal on and answer. I don't know how you run so much. One time I ran 4 miles and the next day my legs are completely dead. Well, it's just, a lot of it's like finding the right training protocol that works for your body. Recovery is really important. Pace is really important. Form's really important. And I think even more than pace, like having a long-term perspective to what the journey requires. A lot of people train up for a 5K or a half marathon, heck, even a marathon way too fast, and then the whole journey is just pain. Or people think if they want to run a marathon, their training protocol needs them to run every single day. So then they neglect stretching, but also what's actually really key is strength. You should actually run with your core engaged, your back taut, a slight forward lean. But we just kind of like put on our shoes and go, and then don't realize like how high impact it is on our body. I mean, I don't really have any big questions right now. I'm just here to enjoy your content. Oh, thanks so much, Johnson. Well, I'm enjoying having someone to talk to. It makes my run, you know, at least 12.6% more engaging and purposeful. To know that someone's out here hanging out, deriving something from my experience of suffering. We're close. 2.5 miles up here. So like, if you ever want to get into running, because I think actually, unless you have a legitimate disability, which is a thing, or you're like mortally obese, I think anyone can eventually train up to be able to run safely. At a minimum, train up to be able to walk long distance safely. It's just a matter of the training protocol. And again, being patient with the journey. It's uphill. It gets me every time. So if you want to run with me, I built a 16-week half marathon training program that makes long distance running accessible to your average Joe who are heavier. And we start, 1 second, how excited. And we start by doing some mobility, building some core and back strength, and then training to walk a 5K. And we spend that because we got to learn how to walk and jog with good form. We need a strong base before we start tubes workout program. I probably make And maybe you learn a new skill, a new discipline, and find a new health and vitality to take from your 20s into your 30s. We take our bodies for granted, and down the road they start to atrophy really fast. So you got to get out ahead of it. No, we're so close. We're tired. That's Kawasaki. So we're actually crossing from Tokyo to Kawasaki. 2 different cities. Mark to not lose momentum. Otherwise the whole thing's screwed. Uh-oh. I lost YouTube chat. You're getting there. Keep on pushing. We can do it. We can make it. Don't give up. Some connectivity issues on the YouTube front. So I'm gonna try something. See if that fixes it. It's so interesting. Yeah. Let's see if this works out better. Come on, keep going. Slowly dying. I'd like to do a half marathon again this year, but I gotta secure a job and housing first. Kind of the key requirement of the whole thing. That's the Tokyo line, I think. So if you wanted to go into it transfers at Juyuagaoka. I can never say that place right. It's one of my favorite stations though. And then you could take it all the way out to Hibiya, I think. Is that where you transfer? Where do you transfer? Basically, it'll get you out, let's say, near Roppongi Hills. It doesn't take you to Roppongi, but it gets you pretty darn close. At least from my neck of the woods. Okay, don't give up, don't give up. Now, as we get closer to 3 miles, I was gonna say the chafing intensifies. No, we're good. We have calluses there now. Now, when you get close to 3 miles, what I'm actually gonna do, even though I don't wanna do it, is I'm gonna speed up my pace a very small amount, hit the turnaround, hold that higher pace, and then sustain it for, I don't know, 10 strides, and then do some double power breathing, and then lock back in this same mellow pace. All right, so let's go. We're at 2.98, so we're gonna pick it up. 2.99, pick it up. 3, turn it back. Keep the pace, keep the faith, because I'm gonna run it out to like those white posts. Now the reason I do this is so we can keep momentum and not lose control of our rhythm at the halfway mark. You tend to fall off an energy cliff. Run to the poles, bring it down to a bounce. Double breaths. Double breath. Double breath. One more. Now we need to get to that spot, and that'll be 3.5. I'll take a gooey packet. How come you can't renew your contract with J&J to stay in Japan? Now, that is the right question. I'll take a screenshot of that in a minute. Once the stupid YouTube heart leaves, it always blocks the first comment. Terrible gooey. Okay, breathe. Why can't I renew my contract? That is a marvelous, marvelous question. Norman! How's it going, friend? Welcome to the run. Norman, meet Johnson. He's another nerd like you. You two should be friends in Discord. Okay. Guten Tag. Mid-report writing. I got 2 college students hanging out with me while they work. I love it. Nothing more productive than listening to a 300-pound man wheeze and talk about life as he runs 6 miles in Japan. Makes perfect sense, I guess. So Johnson, I have a screenshot taken. Congratulations. You're my next journal post. So, in short, and it's not going to be short, my job is complex because it's a capability bridge building kind of role. Basically, 2 organizations are mismatched. One of them is what I would call upstream global R&D. This group is responsible for understanding unmet needs of our patients at a global level, prioritizing research and development, making a new product, getting it through all the regulatory bodies, you know, making sure that it's safe and good. And then they hand it to another organization, which I would classify as regional commercial. The commercial organization typically has regional marketers who know the nuance of their market, in this case Japan. How gozaimasu. Regional sales reps that have rapport with the surgeons and work with the hospitals to get accounts to flip to our latest product offering. I was brought in to build a bridge between these 2 organizations. Basically make sure that we truly understand the unmet need of Japanese clinicians, and we're prioritizing that within global R&D. And there's a lot of novel project structures and technologies I've developed to enable success in that vision. This is good resume interview prep. The challenge, I was brought into this role during financial surplus and kind of in the middle of the waves of COVID. So it was, the vision for this role was cast in a season of economic surplus in our organization. COVID was seen as a 1-year delay or bump in the road, and then I was brought out here and started doing the work as J&J needed to start doing layoffs and pruning their organizational focus. R&D is cyclical, kind of like a pendulum. It goes back and forth, and it moves from front-end exploratory, like seasons of growth and development, new ideas,
and typically funding for those projects towards seasons of scarcity and execution only, and pausing all front-end development. And the organization swings back and forth. And as it swings, people are hired, people are let go. Now, I haven't been fired, but basically I was given an end date. Like, hey, your assignment is ending June 30th after parental leave, so you need to find a new role. And while I looked in America and applied for some jobs that I didn't get, all within Johnson & Johnson, I also networked really heavily to find roles in Japan to lead or support other teams to extend the offer in various capacities. And well, after 30 interviews, there's, well, not 30 interviews, 30 applications, there's one role for J&J, undisclosed, that may keep me in the region. It has higher responsibility, but financially it's very dicey for us for the next 2 years. So still pursuing it because I need a job and I know I could be successful in that. Whew, we're at 3.5 miles. I'm petering. But this whole question deserves a much larger answer. I'm gonna try to take a gooey packet. I'm gonna give myself a walk. We've been going well, so I could breathe, catch up on chat, eat this thing, and then jump back in. And walking kind of stretches and moves. My breathing's out of control. Hello, Nara. See, you all are being applicable. I think we're gonna do my disgusting jet blackberry. Oh joy. Whew, making good time though. Just past 3.5. We're at 3.5 miles, 2.5 left, which means we're tracking towards 6:45 being done. That's not my fastest, not my slowest. I'm gonna do deadlift. Oh yeah, there's some drifts in my form. Let's do one more. Whew. It's the other thing, I can tell my form's not perfect today, which is okay. But hi, the 4 people hanging out. We're on a run in Tokyo. Welcome. Kids in Japan and navigating life challenges and working on surgical robotics and making content and stuff. How are you? So you aren't staying in Japan any longer. Well, Norman, me and Felicia unofficially have resolved to try to stay, even if the finances look terrifying. Kind of in a position of needing to secure housing before we secure employment that's financially viable. So it's complex. I just don't want to do my problem sets here. Yeah, everybody doesn't want to do the problem sets. Do the problem. In the same boat, got this report due in a week or so. I mean, maybe that's another question, is like, how do you actually make yourself do things you don't want to do, right? Here, I'm gonna pop you in my pocket so I can eat this packet. How gozaimasu. Oh, it's disgusting. How gozaimasu. How gozaimasu. That guy runs. You can tell certain people have a look to them where, like, you know, they know how to lock it in. Them are my favorites. I'm not fully there yet. I'm getting close. All right. Yeah, motivation is really tricky. I remember, like, I took an internship that changed my life at Johnson & Johnson. And let me tell you why. It relates to your lack of motivation. Oh man, this is disgusting. Oh, so bad. But basically, my freshman year of college and half my sophomore year of college, they're dreadful, man. Like, I'm like, why am I learning all this crap? Here's a big demotivator. I'm never gonna use this. Best example. Actually, let me slurp down this nasty. Energy. Disgusting. But you know, basically, talking with my mouth full. There was flying fish. Oh, this is one of the cool parts out here. The fish really commit to the catch, you know, and so do the grown-ups. But all right, let me do my deadlifts and we'll start again. Oh, we only got 2.5 miles left. We could do it, right? Right? We're fit, we're motivated, we're healthy. Even if we're 300 pounds, ain't nothing but a peanut. All right, let's keep plunking along here. But I was sophomore. I was in my first term of sophomore year, and it's still like when you're taking all the general engineering crap before you get into like the design heavy mechanical engineering, electromechanics kind of fun stuff. And I was in an engineering strength and materials course, and every day, hold on 1 second. I guess I was. Every day was stress strain, baby. You know how to calculate stress and strain? It's foundational. Stress is a force over an area. So same units as pressure, typically measured in megapascals, but it depends on your application. And then strain is how much a given material stretches, which is, shoot, what is the calculation of strain? And then you got your yield stress, which is like when your strain passes like 0.002 or something, I don't know. Anyway, we would have these labs where you would go and there'd be what are called instrons. And an instron is just a really big hydraulic press, kind of like those ones you see on TikTok all the time now, squishing different stuff. It's great. And basically, we would either stretch things until they broke, like pull on them, or squish them until they broke and fractured. And then we would get all of, we get 2 readings out of this, 2 very key readings. The first would be the load frame's displacement, how far it had traveled from an origin. And the second reading would be what the load cell had measured from a force perspective. And then, stress strain is a foreign language to E. Well, you're gonna learn something today. So, we're gonna get to your motivation on why you should do your problem set in your papers, all right? And here's your slice of humble pie. It's coming. Hang on, all right? Get some whipped cream. So, such a tool. But basically, I would get like a huge spreadsheet of all these displacement values and force values. And then they're like, do these equations to calculate these other values. And then find a way to print the stress versus strain. So we're getting into computer science here, even though it's just Excel. There was never a class on how to use Excel, okay? It was a very frustrating class for me. I felt so stupid. Like all-nighters in the lab, just being like, how do I get all these columns to multiply by these values into these columns? And then how do I make all the columns print on the Y? Why are they printing on the X? And it was just like panic attack after panic attack. And all this work just to draw an X and a Y, and then an increase in stress versus strain, and then a fracture. And then read a lab report about it. And I was like, this is so dumb. This the worst. I'm never gonna use this, right? Well, literally, I don't know, 3 months later, I got a job offer from Johnson & Johnson as a co-op or an intern supporting our life cycle group. And life cycle basically maintains the safety and vitality. You have a stapler that was released into the field that a surgeon uses to cut across somebody's lung, and it cuts across the lung, but it doesn't staple. Where were the staples? This person's dead. Like, those are the problems you solve. So there's definitely, like, you feel the intensity of the work, because when crap doesn't work, people die or get hurt. And there was what we call an AE, which is an adverse event. Something unexpected happened in the field which caused harm. And depending on the severity of the AE, I'm gonna walk. My breathing's not where I want it to be today. It's all right. I'd rather talk anyway. Let's do a couple more stretches. I'll try to walk at a quick pace though. Distance is distance, so it still helps. I gotta control breathing and heart rate. Maybe it's because I experience stress when I tell this story. But basically, like, there's a device I was working on that I won't disclose because AEs are super sensitive, right? So a lot of them are still public, and our corrective action is normally public to the FDA, so people know how things are wrong and what we do about it. But you still want to be able to demonstrate that you did everything the best you could to navigate the situation quickly and change. Anyway, I'm not going to disclose everything because it's documented. There's a record, okay? And it's been 10 years, so I don't fully remember everything I did, which is also part of life. Once you've engineered long enough, you start forgetting things. That's why documentation's important. Let's walk out to that bathroom and then we'll start running. I'll try to get my breathing back. But basically, we had all these devices and they have different requirements. Okay, so one requirement might be like shaft loading. And everyone in this industry tests and evaluates these requirements differently. But the FDA reviews them all, so we all have to meet certain standards set by the FDA, European Health Administration Group, I forgot what that's called, EU. And then Japanese medical thing, they have another acronym that starts with P. And basically we had different tests. Like one is like you have a device with a shaft and it needs to withstand a certain amount of force, you know, assuming that the device is in someone's body, pushing on the liver, pushing on a larger organ. It has to be able to withstand a certain amount of force with a minimum amount of deflection, which is strain. And then after that abusive loading, it then has to go and perform certain functions, like it has to be able to rotate a certain amount of times, and it has to be able to close on tissue and deliver a certain amount of force, and it has to be able to seal or ligate X amount of vessels safely. So you set up different requirements and tests in certain sequences to be representative of what your devices will experience in the field. And if something fails in the field, you go and reevaluate, were those requirements accurate? Was it like a product imperfection? Or is there an issue with the design? If you change the design, then you have to do what's called like a CP150, at least with our internal process. I don't know if that's what the FDA calls it. Might be. I think it's internal process. But CAPA, which is like corrective and preventative action, where if you make a design change, you have to go back and do all your design testing to make sure you didn't screw something else up by adjusting a component. All this story, that one test, because it was so time critical, like we were trying to do these design changes and make sure it's safe to launch it back into the field and all this and that, like we, my boss was like, hey, can you do some late nights? Can you do some overtime on this? And literally for like 12, 13 hours a day, I was on an Instron, getting that stress and strain curve, baby, all day, saving lives. It was like a huge slice of humble pie of like, shoot, maybe some of the crap I'm learning is actually applicable. And while there's no guarantee that it will be, I want to make sure that I put in the effort now, so when I need it, I have some semblance of an understanding. So like flip side, that was a co-op, so you take a break, do work, and then go back to college. Like I realized from life cycle, all the devices I was working on were heavily mechanical. So all mechanism driven. One or two of them were starting to have battery powered motors. And I was like, hey, this business is gonna start moving towards like the power drill model, where you have one battery pack that you can put on a range of devices. Like that's just where it's gonna go. It's not there yet. So I need to understand computer control of electromechanical systems, or mechatronics. So I started taking mechatronics classes. You know, I was rocking those C minuses because I had no CS skill set, very limited electrical skill set. I know, gotta love all the green in Tokyo, right? It's crazy. And I leaned into school differently after that small work experience, and I adjusted my path within school to where I thought I would need deeper capability to solve like the next 10 years worth of problems. And like that choice, I had no idea I would be the 16th engineer in robotics engineering that ended up doing like controls engineering work. Definitely didn't know that I'd end up in Japan doing the job I have today, right? Like you can connect the dots looking backwards pretty easily. You can't connect them as well looking forward. I had a nudge or an inkling of like, this is where this space is going. But I also applied to like a military contract that was doing like missile guidance systems. So I could have like never used that and moved into a different space. So when you're in college and you have to jump through all these hoops to get the grade, like just be mindful. You don't know what's going to connect back to your experiences today. And it might be a part of school you hated that you end up loving or finding purpose in because it's in the actual application. Or, you know, an entire class might just be a scrapped semester or year of your life, right? Like, there's no way to really know. The journey is kind of has like a serendipityness to it. But you gotta show up for yourself the best you can. So show up for future you and do the problem set, Johnson. Okay? Because you don't know what it's gonna be like out there. It got really dramatic. It felt like Morty. Gotta get out to that crane. But thanks for hanging out, friends. Hopefully you're getting some of your work done. You know, when people talk about like time management, you got to prune all these things out of your life to accomplish. I hope that my live streams and videos provide enough value that I'm not on the pruning list in the future. When you got to put your phone in a box and go get something done. I'm just trolling. I am working on my problem set while watching you. Excellent. Excellent. Love it. Gotta turn off auto rotate. Uh, 30 minutes. I hope you enjoy your problem set. Jonathan, guess who doesn't want to run anymore? Me. Like, why did we pick 6? Oh, last week we did 5. So this week we do 6. Oh. Thanks for the reminder, Joe. It's about all the reason we have. People get like all focused on like, you need to have this perfect why in order to do things, right? Even what we just talked about. Future you might need to know this. Sometimes we just got to do things to do things, even if the why is not picturesque and perfectly built into a plan. You just keep putting one foot in front of another. I did so many all-nighters, late nights in college for a piece of paper that would secure an opportunity to something I couldn't see. A decade later, still working, figuring out what I want to be when I grow up. Oh man. Dude, OG-san just means grandpa. That guy is out here all the time, walking far, living life, man. It's incredible. Got hit by a bird. All right, we're gonna breathe and walk again. We're in what I like to call the walk trottle. This happens sometimes. I'm departing from making this an optimal 6-mile run and allowing my pace to become a little bit variable. Like, if I was disciplined, I'd be running a little bit slower. Better intervals for breathing, which I do. It depends on the day. If you were here on Friday's workout, like, I didn't put Chad on a shelf, but I had my little watch and I kicked butt. Today the butts are still being kicked, but success for me today is distance, not a perfectly locked pace. That said, the more I cheat on the show, the more I make it hurt next week when we do 7, so I don't want to get too comfy. So maybe the next flower set we'll lean forward and get it again. We're almost at 7. Not 7, 5 miles. We're very close. Let me check. 4.93. So let's start jogging. Let's try to run through the 5-mile marker, pick it up and see if we could finish out. We'll see. That way we can get home, be a father, make my kids pancakes just like they love, get them going for school. But this run's been great. It started off really wobbly, really sore in different areas. Form hasn't been perfect, but I don't think it's been damaging. Sometimes that's the best you can do. Oops. Oops. All right, we're at 5 miles exactly, so last mile, yo. One more mile. It's just 15 minutes. I'll let you guys count down the minutes. 15, 14. It'll go. It'll go. We'll see. My resolve to do very, very low right now. So, I'm just gonna try my best to lock it in. give myself grace when I'm like, nah. Breathe a little more. Oh, in other fun news, I finally figured out how to hook my merch shop up to YouTube. But I think I forgot to attach it to this video, actually. Big time bummer right there. But in future videos, you guys can yeah, because everybody needs a shirt or a coffee mug from time to time. I'm gonna do my big brain club. I have all these different brain badges for subscribers, or not subscribers, joiners, for how long they join the channel. They build up from like a dead brain to a cool brain, pretentious brain. You got like Frankenstein brain. Worked really hard on them. Stairs knocked me out before I even touched them. Just looked at it and was like, nah, I'll get them tomorrow. But I'm gonna, the brain decals are really cool. I think they're cool because I made them. So I'm gonna make a big brain club t-shirts and mugs and stuff. So if you got a friend with a big brain, you can get them a shirt or a mug just to remind them of their baseline intelligence is slightly higher than the rest. Oh, God. Summer's catching up. We're not there yet. It's picking up. Also, friends, battery life's probably getting low, so if I hear a beep, 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 that means the GoPro died. And if that's the case, I'll let you know on text. But hopefully we can make it to the finish together. But it doesn't always happen once we start getting up into 6 and 7 miles. I have another battery with me, but this will end so close to the final time, it's not worth it. Come on. But the big brain club's gonna be awesome. I'm so excited. So excited. I've worked so hard on it. It's gonna change your life. Whew. I'm taking mechatronics next semester. Hopefully there isn't much mechanics. Well, because I'm also, like, I think mechatronics, if you want to become proficient, you gotta do the whole end-to-end. Computer science, electrical, mechanical. But if it's an intro-level course in college, I think the lesson I would want you to learn, if I put on my PhD professor engineer over here, is like learning how to appreciate and celebrate other disciplines and how they can weave together and overlap, and how do you partner in a diverse team to solve a complex multi-physics problem, right? Because the mechanism you choose will impact the electronics that drive it, and the electronics and mechanism will impact the mathematics that drives the software. So there's all these give and takes between the mechanism, the electronics, the software, the interactions between them, and especially when crap doesn't work, like when you run into different bumps in the road and one design or multiple designs have to adjust, especially if they're adjusting in parallel. Ooh, that's a fun space. It's a hard space. That's why it's taken J&J like billions of dollars and thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of hours to put together a robotic surgical system over the last 8 years that we're hopefully commercializing in the nearest future. Keeping things loose to match corporate public speak. So I would give yourself some grace walking into it, that you don't have to be a seasoned expert in mechanics, but use it as an opportunity to not exclude yourself from learning in those spaces, right? To be able to ask, like, hey, why are you using 12 gears, like a 12 tooth gear instead of an 18 tooth gear? Why do you have that ratio? Like, there should be a give and take between every member of the team. Assuming you'll do project-based learning. If they're just heaping knowledge on you and then giving you like a problem to do completely on your own, PhD style, well, then you get to be an expert in everything. But ideally it's cross-disciplinary. Well, electromagnetic physics than mechanics. Yeah, everyone's got different skill sets. And like, just because you got a, I don't know, B, C minus, whatever it was, like, just because you biff in a subject the first time doesn't mean you can't circle back over the principles with a different application. Like, going back to that Instron materials class, I did not do well in that. I think I got like a B minus. And it was by the skin of my teeth. Hated the lab reports, didn't apply myself. Definitely didn't take the time to learn any tricks in Excel to be good at it. But then when I had to do it for the job to help people, well, I picked up a different skill set. How gozaimasu. You know, so it's like, you can learn over time. And I think also college doesn't really give you, at least in like the formal academic setting, they don't give you a posture of try again or knowledge that builds. There's a sequence of courses you need to pass, and if you suck on the foundation, there's an assumption you won't be able to keep up on the next level. So there is a little bit of like weed out culture that exists, but I just don't think that is it's not helpful for anybody. Whereas, like, I know design engineers who've worked on medical devices for decades, and if they looked back at their first mechanisms, even things that went into products, they're like, oh, we could have done that a different way. Like, you pick up new skills over time as you hone your trade or craft it. And I don't think we give folks enough grace to dance and to dabble as they learn. Because we have everyone chasing a GPA instead of maximizing knowledge and wisdom, which is just the application of knowledge, right? Knowledge is what you know. Wisdom is how you can use it. I don't know. That's my sage engineering wisdom for you today. It's like, as you go into your mechatronics class, focus on what excites you. You know, find a little bit of wonder in your work. I'm gonna take you off because I'm walking and I don't want to make the OG sounds and stuff feel uncomfy. How gozaimasu. Yeah, everybody's out today. How gozaimasu. Alright. Almost up the steps. How gozaimasu. This is our favorite stairwell, Johnson. I don't know, what I found in industry, I tend to gravitate towards the people that can dance across the disciplines with grace. Like, I had a early in the days of robotics, I had a mentor. He was wonderful. Stairs are killing me, friends. It's that time where we need water. But we're gonna make it 6 miles. We're gonna check the box, even if it's a little wobbly at the end. It's beautiful out. There's like a little Japanese garden over here. It's great. But I had a friend. He had worked on some really advanced powered stapling technology, which has really intense mechanisms, and they're like micro mechanisms. Well, not that small, but they're very small, right? But they're high strength applications. So it takes a lot of force to form tiny pieces of titanium to make staples, hundreds of staples in a 2-inch line. What is that, 10 centimeters? So like, very, very talented engineer. And he was one of the first like lead engineers in our robotics group. I learned a lot of controls engineering from him because he had a certain skill set that was applicable. Like, he was deep in the mechatronics space versus the rest of the company was pretty mechanism heavy. So I gravitated towards him. But I share this, you know, as you're thinking about dabbling into a space you don't fully know. Like, I remember we went out to dinner in California. We were meeting with the Verb robotics team. So this was a startup J&J and Google made together. And like, we were at dinner and he was trying to discover these new mechanisms. And there's apparently this crazy pulley system that's common in like ship applications, you know, like sailing and stuff. It's a really special pulley that has certain force to weight transfers, stuff I didn't fully understand. And like, he remembered like one of the colleagues from the robotics group telling him like, hey, you really need to consider this pulley for your stapling application. And like, it put him in a huge tizzy because like for 15-20 years of his career, he had dedicated himself to knowing everything there is to know about mechanisms that can go into surgical devices. You know, he owned the end-to-end design of this next undisclosed robotic tool. And then all of a sudden, there's like this earth-shaking gap in his knowledge of like, I had never considered this kind of pulley mechanism. I didn't even know this existed. He's freaking out and like learning everything he can about it. And then once he started like researching it, he's like, oh, it makes no sense in the case size to torque ratios or something, right? Like there's always some optimization an engineer goes through before they're like, nope, that's out. That's the wrong thing. But like, for me, being such a junior engineer to him, it was really humbling to see like how much he cared about pushing himself into that space for the sake of having it in his back pocket for either this project or future projects. And it's not like an idolatry of knowledge, but it's like he wants to make sure he's shoring up every gap so that when he faces his next challenge, he's got what he needs to solve it. It's like proactive knowledge acquisition. And I think that's, you know, Norman and Johnson and other folks that are hanging out. Like, I think that's where you're at in the journey. Being in college, like, proactive knowledge acquisition is the game. And you're not going to be able to acquire all of it. And even after 20 years working in different companies or doing your own startup or doing research or whatever, you will still stumble upon gaps. You'll still find moments of wonder. You just have to keep pressing on, little by little. And with grace, right? Don't be hard on yourself. because you never know what you don't know. Gotta go and figure it out. It's wild. I did. You just gotta go little by little and lean into the discomfort. Life is a, here's your motivation to write your paper. Like, life is a wall squat. You ever do wall squats for sports? If you're too much of a nerd, maybe you didn't apply yourself in PE or beyond. But a wall squat is a wonderful, wonderful exercise. It's like the juice is in the squeeze, like a lemon. You gotta get your back up against the wall, get your knees at 90. Ideally, your arms out in front of you, not on your legs or pressing the wall. And it's basically like one of the easiest exercises to cheat. And I think that's what makes it wonderful. It's similar to a plank, right? Like, if you cheat it, it is utterly pointless. It doesn't have any value. It doesn't make you stronger. You're just checking the box. And every once in a while with a workout with multiple exercises, like, you need to give yourself a check the box just to finish the whole thing, to check the larger box. But when you start cheating at every exercise, then you get nothing out of it. But I think life is a lot like a wall squat. Like, it's really about how long we can hang in, embrace the suck and the discomfort, push ourselves. And while sometimes we might have a coach yelling at us to keep pushing, otherwise we'll experience more punishment of exercise, which is common for like football coaches when I had them. It's, I think the next stage, the later stage in life, is when it's just you and the wall. Like, are you willing to get down into it, hold it out, set a timer because you know you'll count too fast in your head, like commit to the experience each time, commit to the same or a little bit more. On the days that you overcommit and underdeliver, give yourself grace and show up the next day. And we can take that mindset into health, wellness, exercise, relationships, academics, workplace. We're kind of establishing our value by how long we can stay in and what we can endure, versus like what we accomplish or do. You know, like, I don't know. I think there's something there, at least that I'm processing through. Because this whole rotation out in Japan and having the job kind of evaporate has really been like a wall squat experience for me. It's character refining. It's forcing me to ask questions like, what would I do for the stability of my family? Which, those are big boy questions, right? They're not comfortable. No one's coming in to save me or fix the situation. So I have to actively engage life. It's uncomfy, it's vulnerable. It sucks doing interview after interview, application after application, failing after failing. But I trust that if I'm faithful to the process, something good will come for me, the kiddos, and the wife. So anyway, thanks for hanging out. If you want to support the channel, you can subscribe, you can join. There's one-on-one with the Pretentious Engineer. I got 3 podcast posts, and I'll probably do another one this week. I'll try to get my TED Talk out this week on the channel. Click the little bell thing because the algorithm doesn't know that I'm great yet, so it doesn't know to show you my cool stuff. And yeah, see you on the next one. Share all my stuff with your friends, and someday I might be able to keep my family in Japan by making